The birth of the Queen of the Southern Sea. Somewhere in the deep, roaring waters of the Indian Ocean, a queen waits, not in a palace of gold, but in the waves, in the mist, in the shadows where the sea meets the unknown. Her name is Nyai Roro Kidul, the Queen of the Southern Sea. She's one of the most feared and revered spirits in Indonesian mythology. People say she's breathtakingly beautiful, with long black hair and piercing eyes, half goddess, half ghost. Some believe she can appear as a young woman dressed in flowing green silk. Others say she transforms into a sea serpent that controls the tides. But what's even more terrifying is that she's real, or at least real enough for generations of people to leave offerings and obey strict warnings. But who is she, really? Where did she come from? To find the answer, we have to go back, centuries ago, to a kingdom deep in the jungles of what is now West Java. There, in the ancient Sundanese kingdom of Pajajaran, a princess was born. Her name was Dewi Kadita, and she was known across the land for her extraordinary beauty. But as with all great beauty, jealousy followed. One of the king's concubines, desperate to eliminate Kadita, turned to dark magic. A curse was placed on the young princess, and soon her perfect skin was covered in boils and lesions, her beauty gone, her reputation destroyed. The people were afraid of her. Even her own father, the king, was ashamed. In a cruel act of betrayal, he banished her. Alone and diseased, Kadita wandered into the forest, desperate and broken. She walked for days until she heard something in the distance. Waves, the ocean. She followed the sound, and there, standing before the mighty southern sea, she cried out in agony. She begged the spirits of nature for mercy, and the ocean answered. The sea rose up and swallowed her whole, but she didn't drown. Instead, her body was cleansed. Her disease vanished. She was no longer mortal. She was reborn as Nyai Roro Kidul, Queen of the Southern Sea, ruler of waves, spirit of storms. And from that moment on, no one would ever forget her name. But that was just the beginning. Because soon, kings would come to fear her, and some would even call her their queen. To be continued. Part 2, The Queen and the Kings of Java. Make sure to turn on the notification bell because the next part is coming out soon. Part 2, The Queen and the Kings of Java narrator. Legends say she didn't just become Queen of the Sea, she became Queen to Kings. After Dewi Kadita became Nyai Roro Kidul, her story didn't fade. In fact, it became something even bigger, a sacred link between the spirit world and royal bloodlines in Java, the political and cultural heart of Indonesia. Centuries after her transformation, a new kingdom rose, Mataram, the most powerful Islamic empire in Java at the time. And one of its most legendary rulers, Sultan Agung, would forge a connection with Nyai Roro Kidul that blurred the lines between myth and monarchy. It's said that during a meditation retreat along the southern coast, the Sultan encountered a vision, a woman of impossible beauty, dressed in flowing green silk, emerging from the ocean mist. It was her, Nyai Roro Kidul, the spirit queen. She spoke to him not with words, but with power. A pact was made. From that moment on, and later the royal lines of Yogyakarta and Surakarta would be bound to her, not symbolically, spiritually, mystically. She would be their queen consort in the spirit realm, a guardian, a guide, and if disrespected, a curse. This union wasn't just about loyalty, it was about legitimacy. To rule Java was not just to rule people. It was to honor forces beyond the material world. And so, Nyai Roro Kidul became part of royal tradition. To this day, ritual offerings are made to her by the royal courts. Ceremonies called Labuhan are held, where servants send gifts and sacred heirlooms out into the sea, wrapped in white and green cloth, floating into the waves where no one follows. Why? Because to turn your back on the queen of the southern sea is to risk everything. But what happens when her warnings are ignored? When modern people, tourists, outsiders, step into her domain without knowing the rules? They say the queen still watches, and some who enter her waters never return. To be continued. Part 3. The Curse of the Green Dress. Part 3. The Curse of the Green Dress. You're standing on a beach in Indonesia. The waves are strong, the wind warm and salty. It feels like paradise until someone says, "Don't wear green here, or she'll take you." This isn't just some local superstition. It's a warning tied to Nyai Roro Kidul, the queen of the southern sea. You see, green isn't just her favorite color. It's sacred, it's symbolic, it's hers. In parts of southern Java, it's believed that wearing green near the ocean is an invitation, a challenge, a signal that you are offering yourself to the queen, whether you realize it or not. Many locals avoid it completely, but tourists, not so much. And that's where the stories begin. People have reported strange occurrences after swimming in green. Strong swimmers pulled under by invisible forces, experienced surfers vanishing in calm weather, families walking along the beach only for one person to simply disappear. They blame riptides or rogue waves. Locals blame her. And then there's Room 308 at the Samudra Beach Hotel in Pelabuhan Ratu, a real hotel overlooking the Indian Ocean. Room 308 is kept locked. The bed is perfectly made. Incense is burned regularly. Offerings are placed on the table. But no one stays there because it doesn't belong to any guest. It belongs to Nyai Roro Kidul. Hotel staff claim to feel a presence inside. Some have refused to clean the room after hours. One guest who entered it, uninvited, reportedly fell into a trance, speaking in an unknown dialect. He was removed from the hotel, confused and shaken. Even today, ceremonies are held there. Rituals are performed. Because even in the age of smartphones and social media, no one wants to anger a queen who controls the sea. Is it real? That depends on what you believe. But whether spirit or symbol, Nyai Roro Kidul remains a powerful force in Indonesian culture, not just a legend, but a guardian of balance, mystery, and respect for nature. A goddess, a ghost, a queen. So if you ever find yourself on a beach in southern Java and you're tempted to wear something green, don't. Because some queens don't need a crown to rule. End of series. Subscribe for more real legends from around the world.
Night in Jakarta is never truly quiet, but sometimes it feels like the city chooses silence. A silence so thick, it presses against your ears, as if the streets, the buildings, even the air itself are holding their breath. On this night, the sky is a solid blanket of gray. No stars, no moon, just a low, heavy ceiling that traps the warmth of the day and the tension of the night. Far away, you can hear the faint hum of traffic along the main roads, the occasional bark of a stray dog. But here, in Bintaro, standing along this stretch of old railway, there is nothing. Only stillness and the quiet, steady weight of the rails beneath your feet. Michael Turner stands alone, hands deep in his jacket pockets, eyes fixed on the twin lines of steel disappearing into the darkness. He's a freelance journalist from the United States, and he did not come here for leisure. 2 weeks ago, he received an email. No subject line, no sender name, just one sentence. Come to Bintaro. Listen for the train that never stops. He ignored it at first, until another arrived. Same text, same chilling simplicity, and this time, an attached image. It was an old photograph, 2 commuter trains mangled together, rescue workers in 1980s uniforms, and something in the background. Behind the wreckage, a shadow, shaped like a person, but not quite. Michael doesn't believe in ghosts, but he does believe in stories, and a story like this could bring his fading career back to life. So here he is, standing in the same place where 36 years ago, Indonesia's worst rail disaster unfolded. October 19th, 1987, the Bintaro collision. It was a Monday morning, humid, unremarkable, at least at first. Train 225 left Tanah Abang station, heading south toward Serpong. It was a local commuter service, packed with office workers, students, and vendors. At the same time, Train 220 departed from Serpong toward Jakarta Kota. Its cars were just as crowded. The timetable was clear. One of them should have been held at a siding to let the other pass. But something went wrong, a miscommunication or a signal that wasn't received. And now, 2 heavy commuter trains were racing toward each other on the same track. Passengers remember the moment before the impact, a strange stillness, a change in the sound of the wheels, as if the rails themselves knew what was coming. And then, the collision. Metal folding in on itself, steel shrieking, wood splintering, the air filled with shouts, cries, the breaking of glass. The lead carriages crumpled like paper, bodies pinned between twisted frames, blood mixing with engine oil, running down the ballast stones. Rescue teams rushed in. They worked through the night under the glow of Petromax lanterns, lifting debris, pulling survivors free. Some victims screamed for family members who would never answer. Others were already silent. And then there were the whispers. Volunteers swore they heard voices calling their names from deep within the wreckage. When they followed the sound, they found no one, only the lifeless remains of passengers, faces frozen in terror. By the end, more than 150 lives were lost, hundreds injured, and Bintaro would never be the same. In the weeks that followed the collision, grief was not the only thing that lingered. The wreckage was cleared, the rails repaired, but the atmosphere around the crash site remained heavy. People walking near the tracks late at night spoke of a strange sensation. The air would grow colder. Sometimes, a faint smell of burning oil would drift through the wind. Other times, it was the sharp tang of rust and blood. The woman on the tracks. It started with the night watchman. A few weeks after the crash, one guard at the nearby station radioed in a report. He'd seen a woman standing in the middle of the tracks. She wore a torn office uniform, the same kind worn by many of the victims. Her head hung low, hair covering her face. The guard shouted for her to move. There was a train due in minutes. She didn't react. He ran closer, waving his arms, and when she finally lifted her head, half her face was gone. Not scarred, not burned, gone, as if something had torn it away in a single violent motion. The guard stumbled back. By the time he regained his footing, she had vanished. The crying child. Then there were the children. More than one resident claimed to have seen a small boy sitting on the wooden sleepers by the rails, always alone, always crying, but no sound came from his mouth. One witness, a shopkeeper named Yudi, swore he approached the boy one evening. He placed a hand on the child's shoulder and felt nothing. His hand went straight through. The boy looked up at him, eyes pale as milk, before fading into thin air. The ghost train. And then, the most feared story of all, the ghost train. It didn't always appear in the same place. Sometimes, it was seen gliding past the old station at 2 in the morning. Other times, it would emerge from the curve where the collision occurred. Its lights were dim, flickering yellow. Its paint was faded, chipped, the metal scarred. Inside, the passengers sat in eerie stillness. Some had faces ruined by injury, others, no faces at all. And in the very last carriage stood the woman in the torn uniform, always staring out the window, always watching. Michael's first encounters. Michael spent his first days in Bintaro interviewing locals. At a warung near the tracks, an elderly man told him, "You can fix the rails, you can clean the blood, but the spirits stay. They don't know they're dead. Or maybe they do, and they're angry." A younger man, a mechanic, claimed he'd seen the ghost train himself. "It doesn't make the sound of a normal train," he said. "It's quieter, but the wheels, they scream." Michael took notes. Every account seemed to circle the same few images: the woman in the uniform, the crying child, and the train that never stops. The first stakeout. That night, Michael set up his cameras, one near the old station, one at the curve, and one on the iron bridge. The hours passed slowly. The only sounds were crickets, the occasional rustle of leaves. Then, at exactly 12:47 a.m., a vibration in the rails. Faint at first, then stronger. The sound came next, metal wheels grinding against steel. Too slow for a scheduled train, but too heavy to be anything else. The fog rolled in, thick and low. From within it, a yellow headlight appeared. Michael raised his camera. The train emerged, an older model, long retired. Its windows were dirty, but through them, Michael could see shapes, faces, broken faces, hollow eyes, hands tapping slowly against the glass. In the last carriage, the woman stood. Her lips moved, but the sound was lost in the fog. The train slowed, stopped. The door in front of him creaked open. Michael didn't step inside that night. Something, instinct maybe, kept his feet rooted to the gravel. The fog thickened around the train, swallowing its edges. And then, without a sound, it began to move again. The wheels turned slowly at first, then faster, until the yellow light faded into the darkness, and the fog rolled back to reveal nothing. The rails were empty and cold. The days between. Michael spent the next 2 days combing through archives, old newspaper clippings from 1987, black and white photographs of the wreck, lists of the dead, lists of the missing. One detail kept surfacing in survivor interviews. Multiple passengers claimed to have seen a woman in the moments before the crash. She was walking through the train, moving from car to car, but no one remembered her boarding. No one knew her name. Some swore she was in the other train, just before impact, as if she'd been in both, at once. A visit to the yard. On the third day, Michael visited a railway storage yard. This was where damaged carriages were brought, stripped for parts, or left to rust. A worker named Raka led him through rows of metal shells. Some were from minor accidents. Others bore scars from Bintaro. One carriage still had shattered windows and deep, jagged tears along its side, where steel had been peeled back like paper. The air inside was stale, but Michael swore he could smell burnt oil, and faintly, iron. As he stepped inside, his recorder crackled, static at first, then a whisper, faint, almost human. "Leave." Raka turned sharply. "Did you hear that?" Michael asked. But Raka's face had gone pale. He muttered something about not staying after dark and walked quickly back toward the gate. The The second stakeout. That night, Michael returned to the bridge, but this time, he wasn't alone. A young security guard named Anwar had agreed to join him. They set up a single camera facing the curve and waited. At 1:03 a.m., the rails began to vibrate. Anwar's flashlight beam cut through the fog, catching the faint outline of a train. This time, Michael stepped closer. The headlight's glow washed over him, pale and sickly. The first carriage passed slowly. Every window filled with faces, mouths moving in silence. And then, the last carriage stopped right in front of them. The woman was there, head tilted slightly, eyes locked on Michael. She lifted a hand and pointed to the open door. Anwar whispered, "Don't." Michael took one step forward. The air around him dropped, sharp, biting cold. His breath plumed in the beam of Anwar's flashlight. The woman spoke. Her voice was low, but clear. "You've seen us twice. You'll see what they didn't." The next thing Michael remembered was standing inside the carriage, the door closing behind him. The floor was slick under his shoes. The smell, thick with smoke, rust, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. Passengers lined both sides. Some watched him. Some stared at the floor. At the far end, the woman turned, and the train began to move. The train rolled forward, but the world outside didn't move like it should. Through the windows, the fog swirled, thick, restless, almost alive. Shapes drifted within it, outlines of buildings, trees, faces. Every few seconds, Michael swore he saw a flash of something real, a streetlight, a house, a stretch of track, before it dissolved back into the shifting white. The hum of the engine was low and steady. The sound of the wheels on the rails had changed, slower, heavier, as if each rotation was pulling the train deeper into some place it didn't belong. The passengers didn't speak, but their heads, slowly, began to turn toward him, one by one. Some had eyes clouded white. Some had no eyes at all, just dark, empty sockets. Others stared with expressions that were not anger, but something worse, expectation. The transformation outside. Gradually, the fog began to thin, and Michael realized he was no longer seeing the present. It was daylight outside, bright, harsh, the air shimmered with heat. The year felt wrong. Then he saw them, two trains, moving toward each other on the same track. The colors of their paint were brighter, their windows clean, and through them, passengers sat unaware, reading newspapers, talking, eating from paper-wrapped parcels. The collision hadn't happened yet. Michael pressed his hand to the glass. "This isn't real," he whispered to himself. But the woman in the torn uniform was watching him from the end of the carriage. She began to walk toward him, each step slow, measured. Her shoes made no sound on the slick floor. When she stopped just a few feet away, she spoke. They didn't listen. No one did. Now, you will. Before he could respond, the air outside seemed to ripple. The distant sound of steel on steel grew sharper, faster, and then impact. Reliving the collision. It wasn't like watching a recording. It was happening around him. The sound was deafening. Steel screamed as it folded in on itself. The jolt threw him sideways into a seat. Passengers were hurled from their places, some smashing into walls, others into each other. The lights flickered violently, then went out. A hot wind tore through the carriage, carrying with it the smell of smoke, scorched metal, and blood. Michael heard crying, shouting, then silence. broken only by the hiss of ruptured pipes. He stood, disoriented. The carriage was tilted at an angle. The floor was littered with shattered glass. Through a twisted gap in the wall, daylight poured in. And beyond it, he saw the wreckage of the other train. Bodies lay scattered across the ballast stones. Some moved feebly. Others didn't move at all. The whispering dead. A sound rose behind him. At first, he thought it was the groan of damaged steel, but it grew clearer, and he realized it was voices. Dozens of them, whispering his name. Michael. Michael. He turned. Every passenger was now standing. They crowded the narrow aisle, their faces pale, their eyes fixed on him. The woman stepped forward. "You are here because you can see us, because you will remember." Michael shook his head. "I don't understand." "They will not let us leave," she said. "The train never stops. It only carries more." The air grew colder. Frost began to form on the windows. And then, in the reflection, Michael saw something that froze his breath. He was no longer standing in the aisle. He was seated in the very last row. The woman's hand rested on his shoulder, and in the reflection, his face looked different, paler, hollow. The train was moving again, but the world outside was not the one Michael knew. There was no daylight now, no fog, just darkness. And within that darkness, faint shapes moved alongside the train, shadowy figures keeping pace, their heads turning toward the windows as they passed. Some pressed their faces to the glass, skin stretched, eyes sunken deep into shadow. Others drifted backward into the black, swallowed without a trace. Inside, the passengers did not sit. They stood in the aisles, unmoving, their attention locked on Michael. The woman in the torn uniform leaned closer. Her voice was almost gentle now. "They took our names from the newspapers. They buried our bodies, but they never hurt us." Michael's breathing quickened. "What do you want from me?" Her gaze deepened, holding him still. "To tell the truth, to remember us, and to take our place when it's time." The transfer. The lights flickered overhead. With each strobe, Michael felt weaker, colder. He looked down and saw frost crawling up his hands. His skin had lost its color. The passengers around him began to smile, but the smiles were wrong, too wide, too strained, as if their faces had forgotten how. One by one, they began to fade. Not vanish, but dissolve, like ash drifting into the air. Only the woman remained. She placed something in Michael's hand. When he looked down, it was a folded scrap of newspaper, a clipping from 1987. The headline read, "Passenger List, Train 225. Beneath it, his name. The final stop. The train slowed. Michael felt a pull, not physical but deep in his chest, as if something was trying to decide whether to let him go. The doors opened. Cold night air rushed in. He stumbled out onto gravel, turned, and saw the train roll backward into the darkness, its yellow light shrinking until it was gone. The rails were empty. The world was quiet again. In his hand, the newspaper clipping crumbled to dust. Morning discovery. At sunrise, a railway worker found Michael's camera lying beside the tracks. The footage was mostly static, but the last minute showed a moving train. In the first carriages, empty seats. In the last carriage, Michael Turner, sitting at the window, pale, still. Behind him, the woman in the torn uniform, her hand on his shoulder. The camera shook, as if the person holding it had stepped back in fear, and then the train simply faded. Even now, locals say that on certain nights, you can hear the wheels on the rails when no train is scheduled. If you stand too close, you might see its yellow light in the fog. And if you look inside, you might spot a foreign man in the last row, staring right at you. And if you do, the woman will find you next.
March 24th, 1998. The Caribbean Sea was calm. The cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas glided smoothly toward Curaçao. But on board, panic was setting in. A 23-year-old woman was missing. No one saw her leave. No one heard a thing. And what's most disturbing, there was no explanation. What happened to Amy Lynn Bradley remains one of the strangest disappearances in cruise ship history. Amy was smart, athletic, fiercely independent, a trained lifeguard, a college senior from Virginia. She loved animals, had a strong sense of intuition, and didn't take unnecessary risks. When her parents surprised her and her brother with a Caribbean cruise, Amy felt uneasy. She told friends she didn't trust cruise ships. Something about it made her anxious. But she agreed to go anyway, for her family. What none of them knew was that this would be their final trip together. On March 23rd, the night before she vanished, Amy had fun. She and her brother Brad went to a party on the ship's upper deck. They drank, danced, mostly with the ship's band, a group called Blue Orchid. One member in particular, Yellow, seemed to be paying Amy a lot of attention, annoyed, too much. Around 3:30 a.m., security footage showed Amy and Brad returning to their room. Amy went out to the balcony for a smoke. Her dad, Ron, woke up briefly, saw her there, then went back to sleep. When he woke up again, Amy was gone. Her shoes, still there. Her cigarettes, untouched. Her bed, never slept in. She'd vanished sometime between 5:30 and 6 o'clock a.m. The crew told the Bradleys, casual, she probably just went to get coffee, but they knew Amy, annoyed. She would never just wander off like that. The ship did a basic search. They checked public areas, but here's where things get strange. They never made a ship-wide announcement, and they didn't stop passengers from disembarking in Curaçao. The crew waited hours before even telling most people someone was missing. If Amy had been taken off the ship, by then it was too late. At first, the cruise line floated one explanation. Amy fell overboard. But Amy was an expert swimmer, and if she'd fallen from the balcony, the area below was lined with lifeboats. Not only that, there was no splash, no scream, no sign of anything. Plus, her shoes and cigarettes were still there. And then came the strangest lead of all. Several passengers said they saw Amy after the time she supposedly disappeared. One saw her on an elevator with Yellow, the band member. Another claimed to see her walking toward the pool. But all these sightings came with no follow-up. No cameras, no confirmation. After the ship docked, the Bradleys refused to leave. They stayed in Curaçao, searching for Amy. And then, reports started coming in. A cab driver said a young woman who looked like Amy asked him for a phone, then disappeared. In 1999, a Navy officer claimed he saw Amy in a brothel. She told him, "My name is Amy Bradley. I'm from Virginia. Please help me." But by the time he told someone, she was gone. In 2005, a Canadian woman vacationing in Barbados went into a public restroom. Inside, she saw a terrified woman. The woman leaned in and whispered, "My name is Amy Bradley. They won't let me leave." Then, just like before, she vanished. The FBI got involved. So did private investigators. Tips came in from all over the world, but none panned out. One family even received an email from someone claiming to have seen Amy in a Caribbean club, part of a human trafficking ring. A photo surfaced online years later. It showed a woman tied to a bed. The resemblance to Amy, unsettling, but still, nothing was confirmed. In 2010, the Bradleys officially declared Amy dead, but they never stopped looking. The case went cold. Until now. In July 2025, Netflix released a documentary, and just like that, the case was back in the public eye. Even celebrities like Kim Kardashian began raising awareness. But after 27 years, is there still hope? Amy Lynn Bradley disappeared from a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean. No body, no answers, just questions and stories. Maybe she was taken. Maybe she's still alive, or maybe she was lost to something the rest of us can't see. A system that hides people in plain sight. A shadow world where once you're gone forever. If you found this story chilling, share it. Someone out there might know the truth, because sometimes what's lost at sea stays lost.
Imagine a cold winter night in a small coastal town. The fog hangs heavy, like a curtain pulled low over the streets. Street lamps flicker, casting pale halos in the mist. The smell of salt clings to the air. Waves crash somewhere far away, unseen, but felt. A lone car crawls along the road. Wipers sweep back and forth. The driver leans forward, squinting into the short slice of visibility. Then, thud. The tires hit something. Brakes screech. Door flies open. Footsteps pound into the cold. On the wet asphalt, a young woman lies, soaked, pale, eyes open, staring into the black sky. Her breathing almost gone. "Hey, can you hear me?" Silence. Only the wind answers. "Hold on. I'm getting you to the hospital." He lifts her, carefully, like lifting something fragile, and drives toward the red glow of the emergency ward. The ER explodes into motion. Warming blankets, heated fluids, beeping monitors. In the chaos, something strange. Her body temperature rises, fast. Bruises fade, faster. Her heartbeat steadies into a perfect rhythm. "This isn't normal," a nurse whispers. "Keep monitoring," the doctor says, voice cracking just slightly. Minutes stretch. The girl's eyes open. "What's your name?" "Promethi." "Beautiful name," the nurse says softly. "Where's your home?" "I don't remember." "Before you were found, what happened?" "Nothing. My head, it's like a blank book." Police come. Fingerprints, photos, data sent. Nothing. No match anywhere. It's like she doesn't exist. That night, she sleeps restlessly. Her fingers twitch. like reaching for something invisible. Her lips whisper words the nurse can't understand. "You're safe here," the nurse says. She nods and settles. Morning, bandage change. On her left arm, a tattoo, a jellyfish, tentacles curling in perfect patterns. Not random. It feels like a message. "Have you always had this?" "I've seen it before, but I don't know where." The photo is sent to a marine researcher. The reply comes hours later. It's the emblem of something called the Medusa Project. Rumors swirl. Illegal genetic experiments. Regeneration. Adaptation. The project vanished decades ago. The doctor resists the idea, but her blood tests keep changing. Markers spike, then shift again. It's like her body is rewriting itself in real time. Third night, hallway lights flicker. A monitor beeps in an empty room. A stray cat freezes outside her door, growls low, then bolts. Security footage, 3 a.m. Promethi walks alone. She turns. Behind her, a shadow moves. Tall, faceless, too fast. The screen trembles, then clears. Frame by frame, it's still there. No door opens. No one else appears. Camera glitch? Maybe. But at that same second, the emergency exit alarm blares and stops on its own. That night, she dreams. A cold metal room, machines humming, a massive tank of clear liquid. Someone floats inside. Figures in lab coats, watching. Her name, faint, or a number. Subject 3. Red lights, sirens, fire, screams. A hand grabs her, and then black. Too real to be a dream. 3 strangers arrive, 2 men, 1 woman. Sharp suits, too polite. "We have orders to move her to a secure facility." Police are called. By the time they arrive, the strangers are gone. Later, she sees him, a man in a long dark coat at the edge of the hospital garden, unmoving. Minutes pass. Then, his head tilts. Cold runs down her spine. She blinks. He's gone. Rain slicks the road. A car spins, slams a pole. A child is trapped. Promethi runs, hands on the frame, lifts. Metal groans. The child is pulled free. People stare, fear, and awe. By sunrise, the story spreads. Her hunters now know she's alive. Night. A nurse hears voices inside her room. Opens the door. The man in the coat stands at the window. He turns. His face. Empty. Not shadow, not mask. An absence. He steps back, through the glass. No crack. The nurse screams. The dream sharpens. A circular room, rows of tanks. Each one holds a person. She sees herself in one. Liquid fills her lungs, but she doesn't drown. Regeneration sequence complete, someone says. Adaptive subject. Sirens. Fire. The man in the coat, young, breaking glass, pulling her out. "Run," he says. She wakes, whispering, "I know him. He saved me." They come again, More men, more force. Police block them. She slips out the emergency door, runs to the pier. At the end, he's waiting. You shouldn't be here. They'll take you back. Back where? Where you came from. But you ran for a reason. Pieces click. Experiments to create humans who can heal from anything, survive anywhere. Almost immortal. Something went wrong. She escaped, the only one. He's been watching, to keep her hidden. Now, they've found her. Shouts in the distance, flashlights slice the fog. They're coming. He grabs her hand, they run down wet boards, then into the sea. Cold, but not hostile. She breathes underwater, sees in the dark. They swim, far beyond the pier. They climb into a rocky cove. Here, you can disappear, he says, or go back and face them. If you run, you'll never know the truth. If you return, you may never be free. She looks at the horizon, a name, incomplete, memories, fractured, people who helped, people who hunted. I want to know everything, she says. He nods. Then, we go back. They vanish into the fog, toward answers, or a cage, waiting open. The end. Behind the crash lies a secret that was never uncovered. This story is based on the novel The Crash by Freida McFadden. Imagine this. You wake up inside a wrecked car. Glass is shattered, the windshield is cracked, there's a strong smell of gasoline. It's night. Snow is falling like slow motion ash from a dark sky. You're dizzy. Your stomach feels heavy. You look down, and you realize you're pregnant. But here's the thing. You don't remember who you are. And worse, you have no idea who was driving. His head is bleeding. You try to shake him, call for help. Nothing. Your phone? No signal, no GPS, no light. Just the wind, the snow, and your heart beating like a war drum in your chest. You climb out of the wreckage, and in the distance, through the trees, you see it. A small wooden cabin. One faint light still on. It's quiet. Too quiet. The cabin door is unlocked. Inside, it's warm. A fire crackling. 2 coffee cups still steaming. Someone was just here. But no one answers when you call out. And yet, something inside you says, don't trust this place. In the bedroom, a suitcase, clothes, a wallet. No ID, no labels, no names. Just a phone. You scan your face. It unlocks. But the gallery is empty, except for one image, an ultrasound. And written on it is your name, a name you don't recognize. You carried him inside the cabin. He opens his eyes and says, Emily, where are we? Emily, is that your name? I don't know, you reply. He grabs his head. We were running, he says. You said they were coming. You said we had to hide. Who's coming? He looks at you. He hesitates. You told me. You prepared this place. But you don't remember any of it. Heavy footsteps in the snow. Slow, deliberate, approaching. You run to the door, lock it. They found us, he says. Who? He turns to you and says, You're not Emily, are you? A hidden folder, one silent video. You're in it, filming yourself, terrified, no sound. You mouth words, but nothing comes out. Then the camera pans behind you. He's there, standing, holding a knife, smiling. You realize you weren't running with him. You were running from him. And yet, there's something wrong with you, too. In a closet, you find hospital scrubs, blood-stained. Inside the pocket, a hospital badge. It's your face, but the name says Dr. Elise Harper, psychiatrist, forensic mental ward. We can leave this place. We can start again, he whispers. But you know now, he's not your savior. He's not your captor. He's part of you. Because when your memory starts to come back, you remember. He was your patient. You helped him escape because you thought you loved him, and he convinced you that you weren't crazy, but you were. They've tracked the crash. They rush the cabin. Put the weapon down, Elise. You freeze. What weapon? You look down. Your hands are empty. You turn, but he's gone. The man never existed. You were alone the entire time. It's about the wreckage of the mind. It's about how memory lies, and how sometimes the person you're running from is the one hiding inside your own head. Final question. If you woke up in a strange place and didn't know who you were, would you really want to find out?